Homeland and Progress. The Reform Era, 1825 to 1848. Farkas Bulőny's travelogue Journey to North America was published in Hungary in 1834. During his visit to the United States, Bulőny was received by President Jackson in the White House. "We entered the beautiful grounds. Nowhere in sight a guard, a sentry, or liveried servant, and no one barred our way. I was about to see a man elected to the highest office by the free vote of 13 million people. Not birth, not wealth or chance, but personal attributes earned him this distinction." The author wrote about the conditions in the US with great enthusiasm, covering the political system, society, and economy. The book became a seminal work in Hungary, sparking widespread debate and serving as a common reference point for many. During the modern era, which spanned from the end of the Middle Ages to the middle of the 20th century, significant transformations took place on both sides of the Atlantic, and society was undergoing civil change. With the onset of the Industrial Revolution, the principles of the Age of Enlightenment had a profound impact on society, paving the way for the development of modern Western civilization. This, in turn, facilitated rapid economic progress, a gradual shift toward democracy, and an overall improvement in living conditions. Hungary, however, would remain a more or less traditional feudal-based society. Hungarians like Bulőny, who traveled to the US or Western Europe, felt a deep sadness upon witnessing the stark contrast between these more developed societies and their own. What was the reason for Hungary's slower pace of development? How did the examples of America and Britain influence Hungarian public opinion? And why did the Hungarian nobility become willing to abolish its privileges? Hungary and the Habsburg Empire. Medieval Hungary had been a significant European state for 500 years. However, the pace of development of Hungary and Western Europe during the 16th century would differ significantly. The Age of Discovery and subsequent colonization funneled vast wealth into the countries along Europe's Atlantic coast. This led to the development of capitalist economies and industrialization. At the same time, Hungary was at the forefront of the 15 Years' War against the Ottoman Empire. Ultimately, this struggle pushed it to the periphery of European trade and development. Hungary would not regain its independence even after its liberation from Turkish occupation. As part of the Habsburg Empire, it enjoyed exceptional autonomy, having its parliament and laws, but lacked its own government. The Habsburgs primarily focused on the interests of the Austrian provinces, considering Hungary a source of cheap raw materials and agricultural products for other parts of the empire. Based on past experience, Chancellor Metternich's Viennese government was anxious about the growing rebellious tendencies within Hungary. They believed that the Hungarian attraction to national independence could be linked to liberal ideas that encouraged the civil transformation of society. Therefore, they stubbornly attempted to thwart Hungarian initiatives that promoted renewal. Herder's Prophecy. A seminal work by the German philosopher Johann Gottfried Herder caused a great sensation at the time. He argued that Hungary was a small nation without connections and had reached its zenith. Thus, Hungarians would be rendered extinct in the surrounding mass of Slavs and Germans. His prophecy was in line with the experiences of the time, which the ethnic conditions of the day also mirrored. Several centuries of Turkish conquests in the Balkans led to the successive waves of Slavic and Romanian refugees entering the country. This trend increased following Hungary's liberation from Turkish rule. Centuries of warfare necessitated the repopulation of deserted areas, leading to a major transformation in the country's ethnic composition. In numerous regions of the Kingdom of Hungary, the population became ethnically diverse, consisting of Hungarians living alongside Germans, Serbs, as well as Slovaks, Ruthenians and Romanians in different areas, such as northern Hungary, Subcarpathia and Transylvania. Herder's prophecy fueled fears of the nation's death among Hungarian intellectuals and became a crucial motif in Hungary's public discourse. The Romantic poets of the time contrasted Hungary's glorious ancient past with a present full of disillusionment and doomed to a tragic fate. Writer Ferenc Kölcsey's 1823 poem entitled Hymn alluded to this. It would become the national anthem, being set to music by one of Hungary's greatest composers, Ferenc Erkel. Another great poet, Mihály Vörösmarty, also followed this theme in his work entitled Appeal or Szózat, where he called on all Hungarians to be patriotic, as the fate of the nation was being decided. There yet shall come, if come there must, that better, fairer day, for which a myriad thousand lips in fervent yearning pray. Or there shall come, if come there must, a death of fortitude. However, it wasn't just poets who felt that taking action toward reawakening Hungarian identity was required. The official language of the royal court in Vienna was German, and Latin, not Hungarian, served as the official language of the parliament in Pozsony. Therefore, it came as a delightful surprise when a young aristocrat, Count Széchenyi, addressed the lower chamber of parliament in Hungarian on November 2, 1825. I have no voice here. I am not a member of the lower chamber, but I am a landowner, and if an institution is established that promotes the Hungarian language and the education of the Hungarian people, I will donate the annual income of my estate for the purpose. This generosity led others to follow suit, so the Hungarian Academy of Sciences was established. But Széchenyi's speech also had a more profound significance. It sparked a period of fervent intellectual, political, and economic activity. This period in Hungarian history is called the Reform Era. István Széchenyi. Count István Széchenyi came from a wealthy aristocratic family and distinguished himself as a hussar officer in the Battle of Leipzig against Napoleon. Like many aristocrats of his time, he sought to gain world experience. In the 1810s and 20s, he traveled extensively throughout Europe and had also been requesting permission to visit the United States for years. Unfortunately, Chancellor Metternich, who objected to the Count's plans, thwarted his efforts. But it was Széchenyi's visit to England with his friend Miklós Wesselényi of Transylvania that had the most significant impact. Both men were impressed by England's political system, social life, and its numerous technological achievements. Széchenyi's work, Credit, was published in 1830, and more works followed. In addition to criticizing general conditions in Hungary, he proposed a program of reforms calling for changes in outdated feudal laws that prevented economic development. This included abolishing the nobility's privileges, including its tax exemption. Instead of echoing nostalgic views of the past, the closing words of his book suggest the opposite. He writes, "Many think Hungary is the past. I prefer to believe it's the future." In addition to his political reforms, Széchenyi's practical endeavors also played an important role in his life's work. He recognized the country's need for an independent capital city that would attract the aristocracy, intellectuals, industry, and capital, and become a cultural, economic, and commercial center stimulating the entire country. To accomplish this, he founded the National Casino in Pest in 1827, modeled after contemporary clubs in England. It provided an elegant venue for the Hungarian elite to meet, organize, and engage in debate. This led to the creation of similar institutions in other parts of the country. In addition, Széchenyi played a pivotal role in establishing the Hungarian Academy of Sciences and introduced Hungary to horse racing, following England's example. Count Széchenyi also supported the development of transport and industry. He was instrumental in establishing the Habsburg monarchy's first steamship company, the Óbuda shipyard. He oversaw the regulation of the rapids on the Danube at the Iron Gate, making them navigable and opening up access for international trade to and from the Black Sea. He also regulated the Danube and Tisa rivers, supporting the spread of steamship navigation. His most famous construction to this day is the Danube's Chain Bridge, the first permanent bridge connecting Buda and Pest. Széchenyi's combined efforts contributed to developing a thriving domestic industry. For example, the Guns foundry in Pest manufactured the bridge's cast iron components. At the time, the 380-meter bridge was one of the longest suspension bridges in the world. Homeland and progress. Hungary's lack of a prosperous middle class, which could drive economic and political advancement, arrested the country's development, leading to an increasing number of nobles recognizing the need to surrender their long-held privileges for the nation's benefit. In the lower chamber of parliament, liberal reformers fervently demanded the emancipation of serfs, fair taxation, including the nobility, economic development and support for Hungarian culture. Kölcsey, who was not only a poet but also a parliamentary delegate, articulated the goals. Our watchwords are homeland and progress. The reformers were frequently outvoted, but when they weren't, the Viennese government stepped in to prevent the implementation of their reforms. Despite this obstruction, or possibly due to it, a growing segment of public opinion rallied behind opposition ideals. Széchenyi had envisioned reforms through cooperation between the Hungarian aristocracy and the Viennese court, but he was often disappointed. The new generation, whose leading representative was Lajos Kossuth, a member of the gentry, sought to advance reforms through the political opposition of the Viennese government. Kossuth associated the ideas of national ascendance with the civil transformation of Hungarian society, calling it a unification of interests. He believed that empowering the people with rights and property would catalyze a more robust and independent Hungarian nation. Chancellor Metternich responded with violence. Miklós Wesselényi was put on trial, while Kossuth and László Lovasi, the leader of the parliamentary youth, were illegally arrested. This provoked widespread resistance among Hungarians. Wesselényi was at the height of his popularity, known nationwide as the boatman of the flood, since he personally rescued many people from the waves during Pest's Great Flood of 1838. However, this did not prevent the government from eventually imprisoning him with Kossuth and Lovasi. By his release, Wesselényi had become ill and blind, and Lovasi had succumbed to insanity. Kossuth, however, had spent his time in prison learning English, and when released, he quickly became the opposition leader. The successes of the reform era. By the 1840s, the public mood had changed, and many Hungarians were optimistic and empowered by a desire for action. Parliament replaced Latin with Hungarian as the official language, abolished measures restricting the founding of factories, and improved the housing and property rights of the Jewish population. Furthermore, serfs were allowed to attain their freedom by reaching an agreement with their landlords. With the launch of steamship transportation in the 1840s, the opening of the first 3 railway lines, and the appearance of steam engines, the economy also began to thrive. The Óbuda shipyard employed over 1,000 workers. Beet sugar factories and steam mills also began to operate. Although half of the buildings in Pest collapsed during the Great Flood of 1838, the city was soon rebuilt, larger and more beautiful than ever. The cityscape of Pest was characterized by the neoclassical style of the time, with notable features including the Palace Row on the Danube and the Redoubt building. The 1840s was a decade of spectacular cultural development, when the most significant national cultural institutions were established. In addition to the Academy, the National Theatre and National Museum moved into new buildings in Pest in 1837 and 1847 respectively. Literary and fashion magazines made famous the Romantic poets of the era. Petőfi's rustic poems were a huge popular success, and the 24-year-old poetic genius became a favorite of the nation. A true star, he was the first of his kind in Hungarian culture. The public's enthusiasm made Hungarian culture and reform ideas so popular they attracted non-native Hungarian speakers as well. For example, Franz Schädel, the German physician from Buda, was so impressed by Hungarian literature that he changed his profession, renamed himself Ferenc Töldi, and became known as the father of Hungarian literary historiography. Similarly, the greatest composer and virtuoso pianist of the era, Franz Liszt, admired throughout Europe, was proud of his Hungarian heritage. Though a native German speaker who struggled with Hungarian, his romantic nature brought him closer to his homeland and the freedom-loving Hungarians. "I, too, belong to this ancient and strong people. I, too, am the son of this ancient, unique, and untamed nation," he declared. The enthusiasm of the Reform era took hold of the country. As the primary readers of literary and fashion magazines, women played a major role in spreading reform ideas to the people. Women would attend balls wearing Hungarian-style dresses and encourage young men to behave as good patriots. Some went even further. In 1828, Countess Therese Brunswick, for example, founded the first kindergarten in the Habsburg monarchy in Buda, called Angel's Garden, and over the following years, she played a significant role in establishing and running kindergartens in Vienna, Pozsony, and elsewhere in the country. The pearl of the Reform era. Amidst the heated political debates of Pozsony, the court intrigues of Vienna, and the feverish construction of Buda and Pest, another symbolic location of the time would emerge on the shores of Hungary's greatest lake. Before the 19th century, Lake Balaton was used mainly for fishing, reed cutting, and transportation. However, the cultured political and artistic elites discovered its beauty during the Reform era. In the summertime, the town of Balatonfüred became a gathering place for all the influential figures of the day, from István Széchenyi to Lajos Kossuth, to the popular Palatine Archduke Joseph. Miklós Wesselényi was reported to have been the first guest to swim in extravagant style across the lake to the ancient Benedictine monastery in Tihany. He reportedly shaved en route as part of a wager. Later, it was from this very location that the first steam voyages on the Balaton were launched, organized by none other than István Széchenyi. History has shown that it's uncommon for entire sectors of society to give up their privileges for the common good voluntarily. However, the Hungarian nobility was willing to make this sacrifice during the Reform era. Although this breakthrough was delayed, mainly due to the Viennese government's resistance, the desire for change permeated the country. Even as a newlywed on his honeymoon, Petőfi dreamt of an all-encompassing revolution to come. While debating with Széchenyi, Kossuth sent a message to the magnates: "With you, by you, if you wish it; without you, against you, if necessary." In Budapest, stone plaques commemorating the devastating floods of March 15, 1838 can still be seen on several buildings. No one could have foreseen then that the same date would rise to even greater significance a decade later. This time, it wouldn't be the waters of the Danube engulfing the city, but the waves of revolution.